and said, don't come in, and 8 million people came in.
Biden has deported, I think, 51% of people across the border. Trump was only at 49%.
That the president of the United States of America, a few weeks out from the convention, decided to pull out of the race and did not address the nation. Now, you can say he had COVID. I don't care. He's the sitting president of the United States. For it to...
he literally had COVID. If you watch the speech that he did make, at 8 p.m. yesterday, whatever, he did not look great in it. He was fucking spray painted just as orange as Trump. It's understandable why he didn't want to make it while he was even more affected by COVID. Like, it's your job to enforce the law. If weed is illegal, you're in charge of enforcing that law. There have been times where she refused to defend certain laws. For example, the big one is the gay marriage ban. None of this is in the same universe as what Trump did. None of this is remotely similar.
Donald Trump was president for 4 years, okay? He did a lot of things bad. I was a big critic of his foreign policy. His fiscal policy was very bad. I do not think he handled COVID well, but these are problems kind of similar to previous presidents before that. His rhetoric is much more bombastic than other presidents were, okay? That's the reality that we're dealing with. And the fact that you guys have to take this up to...
What did he do when he lost the election? What did he do?
It was never actually a threat to overthrow democracy. If you want to talk about people who haven't accepted the results...
How do you think it was never a threat?
Al Gore, Hillary Clinton, Stacey...
What would happen if people didn't threaten to resign? Like, what would have happened? What does he think would happen if people threatened to resign? Or literally, what would happen if he just got, like, Georgia or Arizona? What would happen if when Giuliani called the Secretary of State in Arizona, she refused to certify the vote? What would have happened? What would have happened? Like, what? Broke girls somewhere?
President Biden is alive. That wouldn't normally make for a particularly good headline, would it? But given the state of his health, his abandoned campaign, and his complete absence from public view this week, it came as something of a relief. The president is still yet to be seen since Sunday's bombshell announcement, but he dialed in to a Kamala Harris campaign event last night with a very, very reassuring message, particularly for Republicans.
And by the way, I'm not going anywhere. I'm going to be out there in the campaign with her, with Kamala. I'm going to be working like hell, both as a sitting president, getting legislation passed, as well as in campaigning.
The 60 was based on one issue.
Younger than Trump, like Biden, she cannot be...
Both as a sitting president, getting legislation passed, as well as in campaigning. You know, what we still need to save is democracy. And Trump is still a danger to the community. He's a danger to the nation.
I'm not going anywhere, he says. I'll be out campaigning with Kamala. Well, given his rating, she might not want him to. In a sign of the awkwardness ahead in this uniquely bizarre and sensational campaign, the alien president lingered on the call like an elderly grandparent yelling, "You still there?"
You guys heard it from Doug's voice. We love Joe and Jill. We really do. They truly are like family to us. And we do, everybody do that.
It's mutual.
I knew you were still there. You're not going anywhere, Joe.
I'm watching the kid.
I'll be watching you, he warns, booming in like the ghost of elections past. Well, President Biden now says he will allegedly address the nation tomorrow night at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Vice President Harris, meanwhile, is cruising to the nomination. Democratic titans like Nancy Pelosi and St. George Clooney have endorsed her. Donations are pouring in. Now she has the delegates to see off any serious challenges too. The open convention has become more like one of our British coronations. Clearly, I'm not advising her campaign, but I would say the spectre of Joe Biden is probably the last thing she needs right now. She wants to close the gap on former President Trump. Harris will campaign as a black female leader with a compelling message about a prosecutor against a convicted felon. She's 19 years younger than Trump. Like Biden, she can often be incoherent. But unlike Biden, the words coming out of her mouth are the ones she intended to use. As unpopular as she may be at the moment, her candidacy has the potential to stoke the liberal base and win over voters who saw Biden's campaign as an increasing farce. And that's why Trump supporters should be careful what they wish for.
I have suggested that the president should resign. The reason is, if everyone acknowledges that he is incapable of running a campaign, then he's clearly incapable of running the country. I mean, he
and now they're all yelling, "It's the coup."
has the nuclear codes. He has major decisions he has to make every single hour of every day, and he does not have the faculties to do so now. We are suggesting and calling upon him to resign and do the right thing for the country.
Well, they're right, of course. There are very serious questions about Biden's fitness for office. Some of us have been asking them for years, even as Democrats assured us that he was so sharp he could slice concrete. But acting up in the Oval Office could benefit Kamala Harris, just as the omni-shambles of Biden can only benefit Trump. The best strategy for the former president may be the one he's tended to like the least, to stand back and let the lunatics run the asylum, for now. Later on, I'll talk to Bill O'Reilly about all this. The first debate, I'm joined by the host of the Bitchuation Room, Francesca Fiorentini, the former Republican congressman and presidential candidate Joe Walsh, the co-host of The Verdict of Ted Cruz, Ben Ferguson, and the host of Part of the Problem podcast, Dave Smith, and Chris Mowrey from Chris and Harry Unplugged. Now, Ben, I know you've got to leave fairly soon, so I want to start with you. Is it in Republican interest that Joe Biden lingers around like a bad old smell for as long as possible?
Yeah, careful what you wish for. I think there's two parts to this. Look, I would love to see Joe Biden be okay, and I mean that from a health perspective. The fact he's been hiding, that we haven't seen him. I'm glad.
At least this time they got an actual liberal, not just a like anti-establishment progressive. I've seen the clip of this kid talking about the fake electors. At least they got the TikTok liberal on here. Thank God. Thank the Lord.
Apparently he's doing better, and he's going to address the nation tomorrow night. At the same time, if he's clearly incapacitated, you need someone to actually be the acting president of the United States of America, not a de facto president, which is what Kamala is right now. Look, there's a yin and yang here. If you see Kamala as president as a helper campaign, maybe. But if she's the Kamala Harris that we've learned to know, I think it could also just be a disaster for a presidential campaign. It's truly a coin flip at this point. So yeah, be careful what you wish for in one aspect of this. But at the same time, it's like, all right, let's see what Harris looks like. I don't believe it's a great product. I don't believe she's going to be a great president. She's filling in. I think she's a disaster when you see her on stage. And I think she's unlikable. And the Democrats decided that in the last presidential primary they had with her. They didn't like her. They didn't vote for her. They didn't support her. They didn't give her money. This is the coronation now. So let's see Kamala Harris. I think she's running the country right now. So let's let her have the job.
Okay, I mean, Francesca, I watched Kamala Harris's first big speech yesterday, the one where Biden called in. And the contrast between the two of them couldn't be more glaring. I mean, Biden just sounded like a very old man doddering his way through a sort of call to wish everybody well. She did look the part. I mean, she's very telegenic. She's obviously intelligent. She was warm. She cracked some jokes. She had a few zingers about Trump. And whilst everything Ben has said is true, everything changes when you become the presidential candidate for your party. And there is a chance here for the Democrats to have a massive and dramatic reset if she plays it right.
I mean, yeah, and even if she plays it wrong, Piers, I mean, even if she can just end this full sentence and be nominally coherent, she's a much better option for not just Democratic voters, but I think independents and undecideds who obviously see Donald Trump. They know all the drama that comes along with him, and they're like, yeah, let's go with this. Let's take a chance. But look, I think this is a massive win for Trump. I don't understand why the right's not happier. You guys need to be happy, okay? Donald Trump beat Joe Biden, and not a single ballot was cast. Boom. I don't know why this is not more of a cause for celebration. I understand that your Superman does have a kryptonite, which happens to be black female prosecutors, Tanya Chutkin and Letitia James, Fani Willis, and now, oops, Kamala Harris. But I still think you should just take a win. I love, there's a lot of whining going on. I don't get it. Like, in no world does a baseball team get to sue another baseball team because they put in a left-handed relief pitcher instead of a righty, and they were voting for the righty. What's going on?
Yeah, but let me say this in response to it. It's not whining. This is different, and Republicans know it's different because, number one, the media is about to give $1 billion to $2 billion in in-kind donation to the Harris campaign with a 30-day Democratic convention telling everyone that she is amazing. Number two is perspective change. If you're on the Titanic and you hit an iceberg and there's a really crappy little dingy boat in the middle of the water, that boat looks amazing to you in that moment because it's a life raft and it might save your life. That is Kamala Harris's campaign right now. You're compared to a ship that's going down, and the only thing that can possibly save you is that crappy little ship in the sea, which you'll be in love with for the next 3 or 4 months. So it's not whining. It's just knowing what's going to happen here.
So I love your analogy, and let me just
does
that mean that Donald Trump is the iceberg?
Hang on, let me respond to that.
No, that's not what I said. I think you know that.
No, you did iceberg Donald Trump.
Okay, Dave Smith.
Yeah, well, look, I mean, I think that there's a lot of relief amongst Democrats right now because they were very concerned with the problems that Joe Biden has as a candidate. The issue is, look, there's a reason why we've all been speculating about Gavin Newsom and Hillary Clinton. And from the very beginning, when there was always a question mark over whether Joe Biden would make it or not, there is a reason why people skipped over Kamala Harris as the next option. And the reason is because she's a deeply unpopular vice president. She has never been a great political candidate. And the reality of the situation is that despite the enormous spin that's going on right now, it is not...
I mean, she was relatively unpopular as a vice president, but people have been rallying behind her more than even I expected. I was relatively against Biden dropping out because I didn't think we'd get this level of support for one candidate. But Kamala has been growing in popularity. There's that one poll that showed her, I think, 2 points ahead of Trump at 44%, and Trump at like 42% in the national general.
Not true that Joe Biden made some decision that his country is more important than him. He fought everyone until the very bitter end. Kamala Harris has a serious uphill battle right now to try to beat Donald Trump. She's only got a few weeks till convention. I'm not saying this as a Trump supporter who's whining. I'm just looking at the situation in front of me. Donald Trump is the overwhelming favorite right now.
Yeah, I think that's completely true, and certainly in the swing states. Joe Walsh, what do you make of this? And I can't ever remember a period in American politics quite like this in my entire lifetime. I was born in 1965. It's absolutely extraordinary, the series of events. The fact that there was an assassination attempt on Donald Trump where he was hit by bullets, and we're not actually leading with that so soon after it happened, is remarkable. But it's a very fast-moving thing, this. And the thing about politics is momentum can play a big part. Trump has arguably, you could say, peaked way too early here in this campaign. Everything's riding well for him. He's doing great. The comeback is in place. It's all secure. Looks like he can't lose. But as he said to me,
because Kamala Harris has already peaked too, though. Unfortunately,
on Saturday night when we spoke, 4 months is a very long time in politics. We've just seen what can happen in 3 weeks. 3.5 weeks ago, there was the debate to come, and Joe Biden was telling everyone, "I'm going to take Trump down at the debate." Well, 3.5 weeks later, he's gone. So anything can happen here. What's your reading, Joe, of where we are?
Piers, I agree 100%. We are living in unprecedented times. I mean, the past 8 to 9 years. 3.5 years ago, a sitting president lost an election, and he still hasn't conceded. And he tried to overthrow an election. You're right. We had an assassination attempt on a president just a few weeks ago. So, yeah, these are crazy, unprecedented times. Look, this isn't complicated. I don't want Trump back in the White House, but he's winning right now. He's got a comfortable lead. Joe Biden wasn't going to beat him. The Democrats found another candidate, and she has a legitimate shot at challenging him and beating him. I think the factor that all of us have underestimated, no matter where you stand on her as a candidate, is the enthusiasm. There was zero enthusiasm for Joe Biden. Kamala Harris, any other candidate, would have generated huge enthusiasm. That's a wild card. That's all. That's a wild card.
It's a reset. Piers, the whole election.
Let me bring Ben. I know you've got to go in about 4 minutes, Ben. So let me ask you this, Ben. I mean, the money's been pouring in for Kamala Harris in record levels, if you believe what the Democrats are saying. 18, 19 million within 24 hours. All right, you can cast a skeptical eye over the exact number, but clearly the Democratic machine is now pouring behind Kamala Harris. That will in itself energize the race in a way that Donald Trump would not have had to have dealt with if it was still CP Joe Biden. So I think there's a new challenge for him. If I was advising Trump, but I'm not, but if I was, I would say to him, be very careful about going too ad hominem on Kamala Harris. I would stick to her policies. I would stick to her record. This is the woman who believed in defunding the police. This is the woman ultimately who was made the immigration czar and said, don't come in, and 8 million people came in. Right? So there are lots of ways you can go after Kamala Harris.
True. Yep.
I think if Trump...
She can't get any credit for saying don't come in just because people did come in. They didn't listen to her, even though if you look at Kamala Harris is the vice president, she's not really in charge of border policy. We already went over the immigration stuff earlier on stream, but even though less people have been more people have been deported under Biden as a percentage than Trump. Biden has deported, I think, 51% of people across the border. Trump was only at 49%, and that's not including that's including Title 42 on Trump's end. If you exclude Title 42, which allowed the president, which basically turned everyone away because it was a COVID measure, so it turned everyone away, no matter how valid the claim of asylum was. If you don't include Title 42, Trump only removed 29.2% of people across the border illegally pre-Title 42. And then Biden in his first 2 years removed 51%. Yeah. Fewer people have been released from, or as a percentage again, have been released from ICE as well. we've seen a Title 42 greatly in a lot of Trump's border policies greatly increasing number of known gotaways, people who totally evaded border patrol. The number of known gotaways has gone down significantly, which is good for border security because that means the people coming over the border have been screened for a criminal background, and their asylum claim has been at least they do their screening process for the asylum claim. Vetted, I guess is the word. Yeah.
Tries to do what he often does and go ad hominem with her. It could backfire.
Sure. Look, I think this is a blessing that she is now going to be the nominee, that this isn't going to be an open convention. Because otherwise, who are you campaigning against for the next 30 days of the convention, right? You do 20% of the time with Kamala, 10% with Gavin Newsom, 5%, with Shapiro. I mean, this was going to get really complicated. Now Joe Biden is gone. Donald Trump knows who he's running against. It's Kamala. You stick to her record and why she's so unpopular with the Democratic Party. But this is also, Piers, so different. The media, it was so depressed. The Democratic Party was so depressed. The donors had dried up the money for Joe Biden. They forced him out. Someone even described it as a soft coup, where if you don't resign 25th and you're going to have some serious problems, he goes into hiding. Any other country this happens, our State Department say, we think there might be a coup attempt going on in another nation. And now we're at this reality. And I think what Democrats understand is this is their lifeboat. This is their second chance at holding on to power. So every mega donor says we want to keep power. Everyone in around the White House that knows Kamala, we want the power. Every congressman that's running for re-election desperately needs a better candidate. Up ballot matters to down ballot races, and every other senator wants to keep power. So they are all in, and that's why every poll that's out right now is completely and utterly worthless. It means nothing. Do I believe that Donald Trump has a lead? Yes, but it's worthless because this is a total reset. It's a completely new race we've never seen before in American political history. It is a race to the finish. It's going to be something we've never witnessed. Now, if you're Trump, you stick to the basics. The economy's stupid. Kamala Harris is Joe Biden 2.0. She's unpopular, and she's going to give you exactly what you just saw for the last 4 years. But he has got to stay focused because the one thing I'll say is the media is going to treat Kamala Harris like she's Princess Diana for the next 3.5 months. They will never betray her. She is now a beauty queen, and they love her.
Well, you can see that. And it does feel like a coronation. That may not be the smartest move by the Democrats to make it look like they've basically ridden roughshod over democracy to make her the queen. Joe, you want to jump in?
Yeah, just quibble on that one point, Piers. Look, a coup is when you lose an election and try to overthrow it. That's a coup. A president deciding not to run. No, hold on, Ben. Let me finish, then jump in. A president deciding not to run is not a coup. And this notion, Piers, of a coronation. Biden decided not to run. Any Democrat could have thrown their hat in the ring. This isn't an election. It's a primary. The primary voters pick delegates. The delegates at the convention pick the nominee. This is not a coup. And any other Democrat could jump in and challenge her.
I'll say this last thing.
Let me just ask Benny, do you have to go? Can you wait a couple of minutes? What's your deal?
I've got 3 more minutes, yes.
Let Ben have his final blast back at Joe, and then we'll
let me say this. I read this yesterday, and it came from an elected official, and it said, quote, if this was happening, referring to what's happening politically, in any other country, the State Department would be calling this a coup attempt. The president in hiding, president, no pictures of him, letterhead that doesn't have a presidential seal, a signature that's been underlined that the president doesn't typically do.
They keep mentioning the stuff. They keep not mentioning it. Biden literally had COVID.
And yet we're acting like this is normal. Joe Biden was forced out. There was something that happened to him, whether it was medically.
Joe Biden was forced out by his own brain, Ben. Joe Biden's brain did a coup on Joe Biden.
He didn't want to leave. He did not want to leave. Days before, he was saying, I'm in this. And I think this was clearly the cabinet and other Democrats that said.
He didn't want to leave. And then guess what? His brain did this weird thing that they call changing his mind. He didn't want to leave. People kept telling him, hey, we don't think that you have what it takes to beat Trump. And he changed his mind. He said, can Kamala win? And people told him, we think Kamala can win. And he was like, all right, goddamn, I guess I'll step down.
You're either going to leave or we're going to force you out. You are done. And now we've got a president that's going to talk to the nation tomorrow night. I'm sorry. This happens in another country. We'd all be talking about it this way, but we're acting like it's normal. This is not normal.
What's so funny about Republicans is that this would never happen because their God Emperor Donald Trump can literally do whatever he wants, and no Republican would ever step out of line to criticize him. No one would step out of line and say you shouldn't be president anymore. And you're so jealous that Democrats actually hold their own accountable. You're so jealous that we'd actually be like, hey, you know what? Maybe you shouldn't run again. Party, right? It's just so funny. It's like if you lose in November, you're going to run again.
You're trying to put him in prison. You're trying to take his property, and then they try to kill him. I'm not jealous that anybody even celebrates that.
Who tried to kill him? Ben, who tried to kill him?
A radical young 20-year-old trying to kill him. And everybody's like, I love this. And they're like, well, what's the motive? He wanted to kill Donald Trump. That's the motive.
Ben, careful. You said they. They tried to kill him. Who's they?
People that hate Trump. Wait. That's what I'm saying. It's very simple.
A 20-year-old kid did it, right? A demented, lonely 20-year-old kid
who hated Donald Trump. People that hate Trump. They want to put him in jail. They want to take all these things. They try to overthrow the will of the people in the first election. Walsh. Go back to the beginning.
Let me jump in. I just want to say this. We don't actually know the motivation of the shooter, but if you want to look for blame as to how this 20-year-old deranged kid with an AR-15 was able to unload 8 bullets at President Trump, it's because the Secret Service dropped the ball in such spectacular fashion and left President Trump exposed so badly, which could have led to him being killed and should have done, really. It was a miracle that he survived, that the director of Secret Service, Tim Cheadle, has today resigned or probably been fired. And so that is probably where my main blame would go, is their failure to protect the president. Now, hang on a second, Joe. We've got to say goodbye to Ben to be respectful to his time. Thank you very much indeed for coming back on Uncensored. I appreciate it. We're joined by Chris Mowrey from the Chris and Harry Unplugged, and I'll come to CJ Pearson as well. But Dave Smith, you've been sitting next to me here, even though
they're not going to let. Okay, well, whatever.
You wanted to get in there. there. You were aghast about something. I'm not quite sure what it was.
Well, look, okay, there's just a couple things here. First of all, I do understand why people object to the use of the term coup. However, for Joe to say, well, this was just Joe Biden made a decision, like, that's pretty misleading also. The truth is that Joe Biden did make his decision. His decision was to stay in the race. He made this very, very clear. Up to Sunday.
And then he changed his mind and he made the decision the other way. Like
morning, on the Sunday morning news shows, campaign surrogates were going out saying he's staying in the race. It's Biden versus Trump. Now, it's not exactly that he made a decision. Big donors and political operatives and the corporate press all turned their back on him and said, we are going to force your hand. And essentially he was forced out. On top of that, look, I'm not claiming to know anything that we don't know. It is incredibly bizarre that the president of the United States of America, a few weeks out from the convention, decided to pull out of the race and did not address the nation. Now, you can say he had COVID. I don't care. He's the sitting president of the United States. For it to
yeah, he literally had COVID. Like, yeah, I mean, if you watch the speech that he did make, at like 8 p.m. yesterday or whatever, he did not look great in it. He was fucking spray painted just as orange as Trump. It's understandable why he didn't want to make it while he was even more affected by COVID.
Like, come out on personal stationery, and then in a tweet he endorses Kamala Harris, and now we're being told we're going to hear from him tomorrow night. That is just incredibly bizarre, and it is understandable why people speculate about what was really going on behind the scenes. The truth is that none of us really know what type of internal pressure was put on Joe Biden, what type of threats were made. So the fact that people would speculate about that, I think is totally reasonable. On the other point, the idea that Republicans are like would never question Donald Trump, he's their god emperor, they would never think about another nominee. The problem with this this narrative from the left is that it just reality flies in the face of it. Look, there was a National Review entire issue.
The Republican Party is held hostage by Trump, and like Trump, like if you don't follow Trump's demand, he won't endorse you. Dude, you want to know what's really funny? He said there was like some moderate Democrat in I think a Maine House race who didn't want Trump's endorsement because he's a moderate. Like Maine is a relatively Democratic state, and getting Trump's endorsement probably cost him the race. That was really funny when that came out. Yeah, like when it was on the phone calls with like the people in Georgia saying, "Well, you won your last election because I endorsed you. If you don't hand over this the voter ID information to the federal government," which they're not allowed to do, then I'm not going to endorse you next time. Like, or when he shot down the border bill, even though he doesn't have any position in office, and he literally told senators not to vote on the bipartisan border bill. Like, yeah, the Republican Party is held hostage by like the Freedom Caucus and the MAGA movement. Like, that's why they can't keep a Speaker of the House in office. Yeah, in order to do that, they have to make concessions to some of the MAGA crowd.
Dedicated to never Trump in 2016. Mitt Romney, the previous nominee, came out and gave a speech. Anyone but Donald Trump. This year,
We're watching this right now.
The big donor money was going to DeSantis and Nikki Haley. All of the powerful forces within the Republican establishment have been trying to get anybody else except Donald Trump. The difference between Joe Biden and Kamala Harris and Donald Trump is that Donald Trump, however you feel about him, has tens of millions of Americans who love him and want him to be the nominee. And there's no Democrat who has anything like that.
I agree. CJ has been waiting patiently. Hang on, Francesca, I'll come to you in a moment. CJ Pearson, can you tell me what brat means, given it's the word that's all over the news, and you're probably the only one young enough on the panel to know what it means?
Yeah, as a resident Gen Zer here, it seems as if Kamala Harris is having a black girl summer, which actually means that she actually doesn't know what's going on. It's a state of deliriousness. It's a state of delusion. It's like you're just going along to get along, but that's kind of how Kamala Harris has led her entire political career. She's just been a coconut falling from a coconut tree. She just lands in a place and hopes that the American people will go along with it as this coordination has taken place. Dave absolutely hit all the right points. Donald Trump went through a spirited Republican primary process where he knocked every single one of them out one by one. What's happening right now, which is so ironic and so hypocritical, is that the party that is supposedly so against voter suppression is now disenfranchising millions of Democrat voters who voted for Joe Biden to be their nominee. They bully a senile old man out of office just so that they could have a chance at winning in November. It's disgusting. It's wrong. It's anti-democratic, and dare I say, it's a threat to democracy.
Yo, you should
It's
vote Joe
not
Biden. Vote
right
Joe.
Threat to democracy, true.
Defend him.
Hang on, let me go to Chris. From Chris and Harry Unplugged. He's also been waiting a long time to get in here. Probably even
Okay,
younger, so knows
thank
even more
God.
what brat
Yes,
means.
the TikTok liberal.
Kamala Harris,
Please,
I mean, what do you make
please
of
save
the
us.
new threat to Donald
Do
Trump?
it.
He's going to tear up his entire playbook, which was to be an old guy, to now go after a much younger black woman. It's a completely different proposition for Trump. What do you think?
Yeah, I think Republicans and Trump are panicking, and I think you've seen it in the last 10 or 20 minutes. If they want to run, if the PR play for Republicans wants to be that Democrats are a threat to democracy, that Democrats are doing something undemocratic, Donald Trump and Republicans like CJ Pearson want to run on that, I think Democrats are in a great position in November. They have nothing. And to the last point about everybody in this party has to bend the knee to Donald Trump. CJ Pearson would not be sitting where he is if he didn't go and praise Donald Trump and have a Trump banner in his header. I mean, CJ is somebody who, in his primary election that he lost, he called voter fraud against his Republican counterpart. And so, in the Democrat world, we've had fierce debates about our candidate, and it's been hard, but we have values and morals that actually matter over just bowing the knee to one man. And so I think Democrats are in a great position, and she's clearly popular because she's fundraised more money than anyone in political history.
I wouldn't expect to hear anything less from a Democrat from a DNC paid show like Chris Mowrey, but what I'll say to this is that Kamala Harris is nothing more than a pandering shadow, and she is in the same situation that Joe Biden is in. She is not running the show whatsoever, and what she'll realize is that Black Girl Summer will not be enough to change the hearts and minds of America's young people, because under Kamala Harris, what you won't have is a Black Girl Summer. What you will have is a broke girl summer as a result of the runaway inflation that we're experiencing under the Biden-Harris administration.
The runaway inflation that's already back down to 2%, or 2 to 3%.
As a result of the record high gas prices we've seen under their administration, their leadership is absent of any leadership.
Then you got nothing to worry about, CJ. No, then CJ, if you're right, if Kamala Harris is nothing, you should be smiling. You should be celebrating right now. You got nothing to worry about.
I am celebrating. I am smiling.
Good.
I mean, yeah, that's what I think is sort of just incredible about that. Just two things I'll push back on. You know, the idea that it's a coronation. Once again, in 2020 panel, how many primary challengers did incumbent President Donald Trump have? None. Why? Because he was the incumbent president. This is an incumbency, right? And so the idea that this is like, how dare they also, it's not democratic. No, Harris is the effing vice president, been on the ticket since Joe Biden was elected back in 2020. Obviously, people thought he was going to be the incumbent and run again. Then his brain did a coup on his body and himself and his whole campaign. And here we are where we are. The other thing about the donors, I think it's very funny, because the reason that Donald Trump on the other side picked your boy J.D. Vance, even though he hates facial hair, is because J.D. Vance came along
It's because of the Silicon Valley donors.
A bunch of venture capitalists, guys like Peter Thiel, Mark Andreessen, David Horowitz, to absolutely help this campaign out with all of their AI-funded tech crypto billionaire money that wants to put us all out of a job. In 3 years,
That's true. That's a good point. I forgot about that one.
we'll just be a panel of AI experts, and honestly, God bless them.
Well, we have to.
DNC shell halfwit who went viral once.
I don't think there's any robot in the world that can mirror what you're like, Francesca. I have to say. I think your position is safe.
True, Brad over here.
Sophisticated AI. CJ, let me just ask CJ, and then I'll come to Dave. Also,
Her background, I want my stream set up to look like this, but I don't really have a way to do that with my room layout. I would have to figure it out. I really like her setup.
When you look at Kamala Harris, like I said, if Trump goes ad hominem, which is his normal preferred method of attack on any opponent, I think it could backfire. However, there is lots of stuff on Kamala's record, which I think he can really pick her up about. Most notably, the fact that she's been the immigration czar for the United States of America for the last 2 years, when immigration has been running completely out of control. If I was Trump, I'd just keep asking, didn't you just have one job? Wasn't that the job you had to do? And even when she was asked if you've been to the border, she came out with this extraordinary response, well, I haven't been to Europe either, as if that was anything relevant to the discussion. So I think the way she's handled the one thing she was given special responsibility for, if I'm the Republicans, I'm going after that morning, noon, and night.
No, Piers, I think you're absolutely right. I think we do, find ourselves, in a hole when we continue to talk things about, her sexual history and all those things. I think there's no need to discuss those things. I think there are a lot of other things that are disqualifying about Kamala Harris, including her blatant hypocrisy. She locked up countless of non-violent young black men for smoking weed, only to go on the Breakfast Club and brag about how much weed she smoked. This is also someone.
Bro, Trev, keep mentioning the one tiny thing you have in her. It's just like, one, I don't think that guy's a conservative, but I don't believe any conservative actually cares about that, because they're supposed to be tough on crime people. Like, after they're in support of like the tough on crime shit, I don't think any of them actually care about any of that shit. Okay. She put over 1,500 people in jail for smoking marijuana and then allowed to laughed about it when she was asked if she ever smoked marijuana. This is a highly misleading statistic. Governor appears to be referring to the number of Californians who were sent to state prisons for marijuana-related offenses, while Harris is the state attorney general. The conservative Washington Free Beacon reported this year that at least 1,500 people were sent to prison for pot during Harris's tenure from 2011 to 2016, citing reports from the California Corrections Department that are no longer available on the website. A State Department spokesperson said almost 2,000 people were admitted to prison for marijuana and heinous hashish charges during that time period, but the Attorney General office didn't directly prosecute the vast majority of drug offense cases in the state. That's up to the individual district attorneys in each county, and it's wrongly saying that Harris put those people in jail. Still, Harris did directly prosecute marijuana cases as San Francisco district attorney from 2004 to 2010. The DA's office has not yet released data about pot convictions during that time period. Harris has a mixed record of marijuana. She supported legal medical marijuana from her very first political campaign, but opposed efforts to legalize recreational marijuana in California in 2010, and took no positions on the legalization ballot measures that eventually passed in 2016. While launching her Attorney General re-election campaign in 2014, Harris let out a big laugh when asked by a local TV reporter about her opponent's support for legalizing pot for recreational use. This year, Harris has come out and supported decriminalizing marijuana at a federal level, proposing a sweeping ban last week to bring the cannabis industry out of the legal shadows. Sorry, sweeping plan, not ban. She said in an interview in February that she personally smoked weed as a college student, and I inhaled. Yeah, I mean, like, it's not like entirely unfair to criticize her for some of the stuff she did as district attorney. But saying that she put 1,500 black men in jail for weed offenses, whatever he said.
When we continue to talk things about, her sexual history and all those things, I think there's no need to discuss those things. I think there are a lot of things disqualifying about Kamala Harris, including her blatant hypocrisy. She locked up countless of non-violent young black men for smoking weed, only to go on the Breakfast Club and brag about how much weed she smoked.
Countless non-violent black men for smoking weed. Again, this left up to the state district attorney. And also, like, as a district attorney, your job is to enforce the law. You might have some discretion over exactly who you prosecute, but it's your job to enforce the law. If weed is illegal, you're in charge of enforcing that law. There have been times where she refused to defend certain laws. For example, the big one is the gay marriage ban. She refused to defend the gay marriage ban in court because she was ideologically opposed to a gay marriage ban. But I think there were times she defended other like drug criminalization things in the court. But it also, like, I don't like when every conservative is like ranting about the fentanyl deaths and the fentanyl, the Oregon decriminalized cities. Like, I don't believe they're acting in good faith when they criticize Harris for this. And also, even if I fully 100% bought everything conservatives say about Harris, she slept her way to the top. Okay, let's say I fully bought that. Let's say I fully bought the stuff about the arresting black men for weed charges, or like arresting the parents for truancy or whatever, which I think she did do, to be fair. None of this is in the same universe as what Trump did. None of this is remotely similar to what has already been convicted on, the fraudulent wealth stuff, or even to fucking Trump University, bro, to Trump University, or stealing documents and hiding them at Mar-a-Lago and ordering his lawyers to hide the documents and not returning them to the National Archives when they asked repeatedly for the documents back. He returned some of them and lied about having returned all of them for any of the J6 stuff, for any of the false elector stuff. Like, none of this is in the same universe for any of his foreign policy failures, for his for like literally anything that Trump did. Like, it's just wild. They're not in the same universe.
This is also someone, as you said, who is in control of our national security as it relates to the border, and absolutely dropped the ball there time and again. She has shown that she is not deserving of promotion. The only reason that we are even having this conversation on her as a nominee of the Democrat Party, aside from coordination, is because she's a DEI hire. She was a DEI hire when she became vice president because he had to get black women on board this campaign. They couldn't skip over Kamala Harris. They were afraid of upsetting black women if they did so.
Add DEI to the list if I could fully buy that she's a DEI candidate, which, I mean, DEI is a dumb term, but to an extent she was, like, Biden wanted to pick up a black woman, I think, right? So
that is exactly why she bided her time. She covered up the fact that, Joe Biden was mentally unfit and mentally unwell and mentally incapable of carrying on the banner of the Democrat Party, because she knew that she could not win an open Democratic primary herself. She knew that she did not have the fortitude to do so, and we saw that. It was demonstrable. In 2020, she didn't win a single primary state. She didn't even make it to Iowa, Piers. And if you think that if she can't beat Pete Buttigieg and all of those folks, Tulsi Gabbard, you think that she can beat Donald J. Trump after what he has endured, after the feckless prosecutions, after the attempted assassination, then, I've got some great real estate, and he'll ask you to tell you it's insane.
Okay, I want to bring in Dave Smith about one particular point. I saw one of the polls today, which was matching up Kamala Harris against Trump. Significantly amongst young people, a big gap between them. And a lot of that, people are putting down to the fact that young people actually did feel that what Trump did when he was shot was a remarkably ballsy thing. And it became a really big social media sort of emblem of defiance and strength and courage and all these things, which were things that many young people had associated with Trump. But suddenly they saw this image of him punching the air, blood all over his face, surviving an assassination attempt, and they thought, you know what, that's, as Mark Zuckerberg said, probably the first time in his life, that was badass by Trump. How significant do you think the failed assassination attempt is going to be, particularly young people?
Well, I think that it helped Donald Trump tremendously. I think it's one of those things where it's like I remember going to the opera with my wife, and I've never been to the opera before. But when you hear like an unbelievably talented singer at the opera, you're just like, whoa, that's incredible. It's almost an involuntary reaction. And there is something about seeing someone while there's bullets spraying, they don't even know if they're hit yet, and they're given the fist. Even if you despise Donald Trump, I think most people would admit, yeah, that was a good moment for him. He looked good there. I think to the point that you guys were making before, again, look, I'm a libertarian, and so I already know I'm going to lose, so I kind of have an advantage on some of you guys. Like, I'm not married to either side here, but I think people blind themselves with narratives when they're all in on one camp. And to hear you guys, the Democrats on the panel saying like, oh, the Republicans are in freak out mode or something like that. Guys, you literally just removed your candidate to go with another candidate after years of pretending that the emperor had clothes, while the rest of us were all talking about the guy who was clearly suffering through severe cognitive decline. Finally, you guys had to admit it.
I mean, it seems like, didn't Trump already cancel his debate that he had previously agreed to on ABC because he seemingly scared to debate Kamala Harris? Like, seems like Republicans probably should be worried about running up against a younger candidate.
Hold him out there. You're now going with a deeply unpopular vice presidential candidate. Look, good luck, but it's a big uphill battle. The fact is that the spin now is that it was just Joe Biden's age. That was the only issue that he slowed down. The truth is that if you look at every single poll, the two big issues here are the economy and immigration. I'm not a kid. I don't understand any of your black girl summer references. I don't know what brat means, okay? I'm a dad in my 40s. We've lived through over the last couple of years the worst price inflation in my life and the worst immigration crisis in my lifetime. This is a major problem. Kamala Harris is...
How old is Dave Smith? I feel like... What is he, 45 or something? 41? Oh, maybe then.
Married to this administration, and Donald Trump's got a lot of red meat to run against. That's what this election is going to come down to, and it favors Trump.
Yeah, I agree. Chris, you want to respond to that? Let me get Chris respond, then I'll come to you, Joe.
Yeah, I just want to say, as a Gen Zer, I just disagree with this. This consistent notion that Kamala Harris is unpopular. Again, yesterday we saw the largest fundraising day in American political history through Act Blue. Grassroots donors, $5, $10, $25. Gen Z is excited for a candidate objectively that's younger, a woman, and somebody who's been like a champion on things like climate and gun reform, etc. And I think that Gen Z specifically, as a generation, me myself, I've never seen America at peace. It's been nothing but chaos since I was born in 2002. And we're looking back now and saying, wow, this is really at a boiling point. And what has caused this? And what's caused this is Trump and the MAGA movement doing nothing but pushing division all the time with the lies and the disgusting, hateful rhetoric. And I think that Gen Z is fired up to move on to get candidates that actually care about us.
Let me ask you this.
You talk about hateful rhetoric from the right to to the left, and that definitely has been indisputable. But what about the hateful rhetoric from the left to the right? For example, for 8 years, I've heard people on the left, from the top down, refer to Trump as the new Hitler, as Adolf Hitler, as if somehow he's presiding over a Nazi-style regime, which, if you're too young to remember perhaps, but the Nazis killed 12 million people, including murdering 6 million Jews in a Holocaust. So it's hard to imagine a more offensive or vile slur or more hateful rhetoric than to compare Donald Trump, who's done none of those things, to Adolf Hitler. So do you accept that people on the left have been just as guilty of hateful rhetoric and contributing to the general toxicity of the debate as people on the right?
Sure, but I do want to point out that, the person who's actually called Donald Trump's America's Hitler is J.D. Vance, his current running mate. J.D. Vance was someone who is very staunchly one of the Trump. If you look at elected officials
I mean, that's a good point to bring up, but
across the board, Democrats have consistently been the ones to calm the tensions. And look, I disagree with calling him America's Hitler, but if I call Donald Trump a dictator or a threat to democracy, I think it's almost dishonest to not call him that. This is somebody who tried to overturn an election he didn't win with evidence that he didn't win it. And so I don't understand how it's hateful to say that he's a threat to democracy or he's moving us toward authoritarianism. And again, I think that the fact that J.D. Vance is the one who said things like he's America's Hitler goes to the fact that, you have to give up all your morals and all your values and bow to Donald Trump in this party.
Piers,
All right, can I get a response to that from CJ?
Piers, that's absolutely insane. For Chris to sit here and say that it's dishonest for him not to call Donald Trump a dictator is absolutely laughable. Maybe if Chris actually visited a country with a real dictatorship, he would realize that under a system of governance where real dictators didn't exist, the conversation, the debate, the discourse that we're having wouldn't even at all be possible. But that's all they traffic in, is all this hyperbolic rhetoric that has actually no semblance of reality, because they don't actually know how to defeat the president, because he delivered for the American people time and again during his presidency. We had the lowest black unemployment rate, we had record economic growth, we had a secure southern border. All of those things are policy wins that Joe Biden can't brag about. It's exactly why Kamala Harris has to talk about a black girl summer. But here's the reality.
He said economic growth. I mean, you can mention the inflation, but Joe Biden is better on economic growth than Trump was, even pre-COVID, for both of them.
Kamala Harris, you're going to have a broke girl summer, a broke girl fall.
You said that already.
You said that.
Also, he keeps saying broke. He understands, like, the programs that caused this inflation also gave Americans a ton of money. He knows that, right? Like, there are trade-offs to these things. The same programs that cause inflation are the same programs that gave Americans a ton of excess savings. This was, a lot of it was demand pull inflation. That demand is coming from people who were given money. Here's the economic growth. This is real GDP growth. You can see Biden, both non-COVID and COVID, is better than Trump for both. This is some of the graphs showing the excess savings that have increased dramatically because of these COVID spending bills. This is household debt decreasing, at least as a percent of GDP, because of, in large part because of these spending bills. Prime age population employment ratio. Americans rate their own financial situation highly. Black unemployment is shrinking. The gap between white and black unemployment. Yeah, and inflation is back down to about 2 to 3%, depending on how you measure it. Yeah, real GDP growth in G7, fastest by far.
Yeah, you said that already. Great. You've got 100 more days to say that. God bless you. Your candidate's winning. We'll see if Kamala Harris can catch him or not. Piers, just a couple quick points. To Dave Smith, I appreciate the fact that he's a dad in his 40s. I'm a dad in my 60s. Look, I don't belong to either party. I'm not a Democrat. Dave and I probably agree on most policy issues. The difference is I think Trump is a unique existential threat to our democracy, so I'll support whoever the Democratic nominee is. Piers, to you, you made a great point earlier. You said we're living in unprecedented times. A month ago, an 81-year-old candidate for president had a debate and showed that he was not at all ready to continue to be a candidate. He was too old, and the entire Democratic Party rightfully panicked. It is a party process. It's not an election. The party convinced him to step aside, and he made that final decision. This is how the process in each party works. There's nothing undemocratic about it.
Yeah. I just want to say that I think it is wrong to compare Donald Trump to Hitler. I agree. I think it's absolutely wrong. If you're going to compare him to someone, it's obviously Mussolini. Okay, much more of a showman, great jawline. I think that is where it happens. And look, Donald Trump has own admission that he would be a dictator, but only on day one. So guys, just listen to him, take him at his word. So
but another problem, Francesca. Listen, here's the problem. Funny though your quip just was, and maybe you meant it or not. The truth is, I just noticed that people on the left, when it comes to Donald Trump, they lose their collective minds. The reality about the checks and balances of the American democratic process was they were actually very robust. Trump may not have accepted the result.
Oh, that's why. I mean, like, you could say they were very robust, but like, why would we ever want to risk it? Like, why? Like, why? The fact that he's even like challenging them to the extent he's trying to challenge them is the issue. Like, yeah, the big thing is going to be during his second term, he's going to learn from the mistakes of his first term and start working. First of all, like day one, like last time, he waited until the end of his term to do like the Schedule F appointments because he didn't want to lose the fucking election that he lost. This time he's going to do it as Schedule F appointments day one. Like he's gonna he's gonna start working immediately. That's the point of Project 2025 and all the civil servant stuff. Yeah. And also now he has the absolute criminal immunity, which I don't know why the fuck we would trust him with absolute criminal immunity.
Result of the 2020 election, but he's not in the White House. He's not president of the United States. You know, he had to go that day.
Have you read?
Bang,
First of all, we know
some checks and balances didn't work.
I mean, I don't understand. We know you talk to Trump regularly, Piers. I'm surprised you don't have a white bandage on your ear right now, honestly. And we've read all 920 pages of Project 2025, and in it says that instead of the police, the military should be patrolling the streets. The military. That is disavowed, even though every single person who wrote it was a former Trump advisor. Come on,
the president himself has said that he does not support Project 2025. We're supposed to think that you believe more about what President Trump believes than what he has said himself. He believes. It's crazy.
Oh, you know what's in his heart. You know what's in his heart.
If you want to see what President Trump believes, go to Donald.
Please let us be. I bet he knows about the Donald Trump supporting Project 2025 stuff.
How about we don't go with what's in his heart and we go with the 4-year track record? I mean, the problem here is that, and look, to your point, obviously the rhetoric on both sides has been elevated tremendously over the last few years.
God damn it! I bet it would have brought this stuff up. That like, oh, a lot of Trump's former, I think 81% of the people who wrote Project 2025 were like in Trump's cabinet before, or were somehow aides to Trump, right? And like Trump has praised the Heritage Foundation before. Trump has enacted like 64% of the Heritage Foundation's proposed policies during his first term. The Republican Party has always been pretty close to the Heritage Foundation. Obviously, he himself is not like directly involved, but like to say that these aren't policies that he would support or consider implementing is wild.
Very divisive times in this country. And both sides are guilty of this or right to do it, however you look at it. But people do lose their collective minds when it comes to Donald Trump. Look, these comparisons, the idea that he's some Hitlerian figure is ridiculous. Even the comparisons to Mussolini, this is all silliness. Donald Trump was president for 4 years, okay? He did a lot of things bad. I was a big critic of his foreign policy. His fiscal policy was very bad. I do not think he handled COVID well. But these are problems kind of similar to previous presidents before that. His rhetoric is much more bombastic than other presidents were, okay? That's the reality that we're dealing with. And the fact that you guys have to take this up to...
What did he do when he lost the election? What did he do? What were the Schedule F appointments about?
As if there's some existential threat to the Republic that isn't, by the way, you want to know the real existential threat? Hold on, 1 second. Let me finish. The real existential threat to our Republic right now is that debt is over, the interest on our debt is overtaking our entire budget. And this is something that...
I mean, it's kind of right in this. At least it's talking about the thing that actually matters, which is the interest payments on the debt, and not like the debt itself divided up for every American, $100,000. Every American owes $100,000. At least talking about the thing that actually matters, which is the interest payments on the debt.
Democrats and Republicans are both guilty. So they don't want to talk about that because it's, it condemns both of them. But the reality of the situation is that whatever happened on January 6th that got out of control, there certainly was violence there. Donald Trump got on a plane and went back to Mar-a-Lago. He was never calling in the military. There was never a chance that he was going to institute a dictatorship in the United States of America. This is all election nonsense. And I'll tell you something, Democrats, you better figure out something else to run against. Because this whole Kamala Harris is a prosecutor and Donald Trump is a felon. The American people have rejected this already. No one cares about these charges that wouldn't have been brought to any other former president, okay? This isn't going to do it. You got to have something of substance. The problem is, what you guys could actually run against is that Donald Trump was such a disaster through all of 2020, and he kept Fauci on the job, and he kept Americans locked down. The problem is, you guys were criticizing him for not locking down harder. So I don't know what angle you're going to find. The problem is, you guys are worse than most of the agencies.
David, be better than that. Quit saying you guys. Everybody opposes Donald Trump for their own reason. Quit saying you guys. And I'm sorry, quit saying those of us who do believe, and you can disagree, Dave, those of us who do believe Trump is a unique threat to democracy, quit saying we've lost our minds. Come on, man. I haven't lost my mind.
Absolutely lost your mind.
Hold on, CJ. Let me finish, CJ. I'm older than you, Dave and CJ. In my lifetime, I've never seen a president lose an election and refuse to concede. I've never seen a president try to overthrow the results of that election. You can disagree with the severity of that.
Hold on 1 second. Let's just be real specific here.
This is Dave and CJ, I feel like are not willing to look into the deeper aspects. I mean, Donald Trump is someone who's had a whole fake electors plot, sent fake electors to my state of Georgia, and tried to, essentially take the will of the people away. He had the Department of Justice in the Oval Office demanding that they sign a letter that with a DOJ
fake letter, yes,
that said they believe there's election interference. And 2 DOJ.
And he was gonna, and he only didn't do it because the deputy director threatened to resign, and a bunch of other deputy people threatening to resign, and he was worried about mass resignation from the DOJ. That's the only reason he didn't do it. He was going to fucking replace his acting attorney general with a loyalist who would have signed the letter.
DOJ officials resigned over that. Again, it is
yes.
So dishonest when to say that Donald Trump was normal or that people are losing their minds when they say he's a threat to democracy. I mean, he tried and went through every single illegal and legal action to overturn the election. And why people are freaked out is because if you have another Trump presidency where he could install loyalists, all of a sudden those checks and balances
invalidated under the Constitution.
Dave and CJ, let me just make one more point. I'll shut up for good. One more point. It's now Kamala Harris against Donald Trump. It's Kamala Harris against Donald Trump. If Kamala Harris loses in November, Kamala Harris will concede and she'll accept the will of the people. If Donald Trump loses in November, he won't and he won't. That is a threat.
I just want to
make one. Here's I would say, and I want to honestly,
they have not learned their lesson.
Let me just respond to.
Let Dave respond, then I'll come to CJ.
So if I were to say right now, I want to overthrow democracy in the United States of America and institute a dictatorship, I don't think anyone on the panel is very freaked out by that because I have no power to do it. Like, it doesn't really matter if I want to do it or not. Now, I will kind of agree with you guys. I just thought the way Trump handled the 2020 election was terrible. I did think he was kind of using like bully tactics when he called the Secretary of State in Georgia there. But the bottom line is that he had no
Bully tactics bully tactics trying to do what? Trying to do what? Trying to do what? Trying to do what? Trying to do what?
Mechanism to actually overthrow democracy, and that was a totally like an attempt to even do it. So hold on, let me just finish, because I let you guys go for a second. Let me just finish making my point here. This is the problem with you guys going to this well over and over again. It was never actually a threat to overthrow democracy. If you want to talk about people who haven't accepted the results,
How do you think it was never a threat?
Al Gore, Hillary Clinton, Stacey.
What would happen if people didn't threaten to resign? Like, what would have happened? What does he think would happen if people threatened to resign? Or literally, what would happen if he just got like Georgia or Arizona? What would have happened if when Giuliani called the Secretary of State in Arizona, she refused to certify the vote? What would have happened? What would have happened? Like what?
The Abrams, they all said these were illegitimate elections, or it was outside.
Like there were so many places where like just like a one or like a very few amount of people like kept the guardrails up. Like there is so many cases where like if just the Secretary of State did this, or if just the state legislator in one state did this, like they would have overturned the election, or it would have gone to the House, and House delegation probably would have overturned the election. Like
there is nothing. Look, you guys are listen. Just hear me for a second. Consider yes, they consider.
And why? Like, why? Like, even if it isn't like quote unquote like that serious of a threat, I don't understand how that doesn't morally disqualify someone from office. Like the fact that he tried at all to go through like the fucking TikTok guy said every legal and illegal mean that he possibly could to try to do it. That does it. Like, if that doesn't morally disqualify someone for office for you, then like I don't know what possibly could.
Okay, so they conceded and he didn't. Okay, so by the magical power of saying I concede, that somehow makes this a democracy and not a dictatorship. You guys are obsessing over this thing that most Americans don't actually care that much about.
I agree. We've got to leave it there. We've run out of time. Great panel. Thank you all very much indeed, and come back soon. I appreciate it. Well, I'm joined now by the host of No Spin.
Yeah, what is this? Bill O'Reilly?